Hey, we got a lot going on today. Money told me what he talked to you about last night, and I'm going to try to catch you up on some stuff and give some clarity to it. Got a real nice treat for you, too. Money has what he's called his 7 secret steps, and I'm going to be talking to you about those today, the 7 secret steps for making more money. It's just great. But first, I always like to get a little feedback as we go along, because it's better to get feedback than food back. That's what I say. I used to be in the restaurant business. So if you say something you agree with, if I say something you agree with, just if you could clap your hands like this, say here, 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 here. And then if it's something you don't agree with, if you could just kind of shift your seats there a little bit and say harumph, harumph, harumph. Okay, that way I'll know if everything's going on. So let me just begin by saying it's great to be here in front of the best dressed, best looking, and most intelligent audience I've ever. Okay. This is the English speaking audience I was promised. That's great. Well, my name is Bill Quain, and I'm a college professor, but I'm also a former restaurant owner and operator. I was trained as a chef. And before I started losing my eyesight when I was about 14 years old. I have a form of macular degeneration called Stargardt's disease. And, it's been one of those things. They didn't think it was going to progress as far as it has. I have a brother and a sister with the same thing. We're beginning to suspect it's hereditary. Final studies aren't in yet, But so I'm completely blind in the center of my eyes, and I have real limited vision around the outside of my eyes. So every day for me is a different kind of day. I spend a lot of my time just trying to think of solutions to stuff, because when you have a handicap like that, and you've made a choice to go out and create a life and make money. I have a family. My wife Jeannie, she's my wife and the mother of our children, and that was the order we did it in. I'm happy to say, I've got two daughters, 24 and 21. We wish we named them something else at this point because those names worked for a while. But anyway, we live in Ocean City, New Jersey, and a lot of my life is spent just trying to figure out how to get stuff done because I flew out here by myself and. I use the white cane. I started using the white cane about a year and a half ago. But I've been trying to solve my transportation problems for a long time. And I know some of you know that I used to teach at Florida International University. I lived in Miami Beach. And I commuted for 6 years to and from class by kayak, to and from school by kayak. It was just great. I mean, I was down the Intercoastal. It was about a 45-minute ride. And it gave me my freedom. And, I've had some times in my life when some things happen. If you read the book, you'll read about the day that I got on Money's list for the first time. When a young man who was 21 years old said to me, and I was 41 at the time, it's about 4 years ago, he said to me, he said, "Bill, what do you want out of life?" I said, I don't know. How would I know? No one's ever asked me, or no one ever seemed to care. So why would I know what I want out of life? And of course he was in a certain business, and he just asked me that question. It took me by surprise. He's kind of interesting guy because he was in my class that I was teaching, but he wasn't registered for it. His girlfriend was taking it, and she said, "Oh, you got to come sit in this guy's class." So he sat the whole semester. He did great in the test. I mean, he was never registered for the class. He just came, and we got to be pretty good friends. And he asked me that one question, and so. I go through stages in my life where I'm just looking for a solution to a problem. And you just never know when somebody's going to ask you the right question. And by the way, asking a question is a great way to do it. Asking people questions that get them to stop in their tracks and get them to think about the situation. And I know Money talked to you about stirring pain, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. But that's what you need to do. You need to ask people questions and let them talk, because you can't really, it's almost impossible to convince somebody to do something. You might be able to convince them to do it once, but you're not going to be able to convince them to do it consistently again and again. So when you ask people questions and when you take the time to understand what their problems are, when you take the time to understand where their pain points are, and then you have a solution for something like that, that's a really great thing. So that's the business you're in, because you're not just moving products, you're in the business of building business builders, and you can only build business builders if they build themselves. I mean, you can't build them for them. You can give them the tools, you can give them the support, and I'm not here to tell you how to build your business, you got leaders to do that. I'm telling you what I observe about business in all these years. And so when I spent those years in Miami kayaking to and from work, the reason I ended up doing that was because of something that happened one day. It was July 7th, 1993 at 2:30 in the afternoon. I wish I could be more specific for you, but it gives you a general idea of what the time was, you know. July 7th, 1993, 2:30 in the afternoon. I had just given a talk down in Fort Lauderdale. We were living in Orlando at the time, and I know I've told some of you before that most people don't know this. Did you know what the word Orlando means? It comes from the Seminole Indian language. You know, the Seminoles used to live all over Florida. Now they live in Tallahassee. Pretty good football team too, but those Seminoles. But Orlando in the Seminole language means land of the big mouse. Did you know that? Isn't that amazing? No, don't write that down. I'm just kidding about that. Okay. But anyway, living in Orlando, and we were landlocked, and we wanted to live on the water. It was my dream to live on the water. And there we were. I'd given this talk. We were sitting on the Intercoastal Waterway. We were just having lunch down in Fort Lauderdale. And this big boat, yacht goes by. And it went by real slowly, and it went by close to the dock, so even people like me could see it, you know. And it cast a shadow on our table. Jeannie and I were having lunch. My daughter Amanda, her name's not really 24. Amanda was in the stroller. Jeannie was pregnant with Kathleen. And I looked up and saw these people on this yacht, and I said to Jeannie on July 7th, 1993, 2:30, I said, you know what, there's money in the world. There's money in the world. Let's go get it. Let's go get it. You see, it may be this weekend that your boat passes you by. It may be some other time, maybe a question someone asked or whatever. But you obviously have had that moment because you're here. So the thing is, what you got to figure out in your quest for money, because in July 7th, 1993, at 2:30 in the afternoon, I started to learn what I could about money. I tried to change my life so that I could have more money. Not because I wanted the money, but because I wanted the choices that money brought me. I wanted the power that money would give me to have the control of my own life. I wanted the conditions that money would give my family to live a different kind of life with less stress and more peace and be able to help other people. And that's what I wanted the money for, but the thing was, I had to get money. And so I began to search and search and search to find more and more about money, how it's made. And it was finally how I got led to then this interview where I found money and interviewed money, and that's where the book comes from. Money Talks, finally. The first ever interview between man and money. And so what you need to do in this meeting and all your meetings. Now I was just listening to, like, for example, Chip Wall talk about some of the great products you have. You know, and I was listening to what he was saying. And he was talking about, I heard the words like organic he was just talking about. Well, you know what? That solves a problem for people. Because some people, they want the things that a vitamin can give you, but they're concerned about where it comes from. You see what I'm saying? There's all these value points that as you learn more about your business, and as you learn more about your customers, and as you learn more about how money is made, then all of a sudden you have tremendous power, and you'll never be afraid again of a recession. You'll never be afraid again of a boss who maybe is unreasonable. You'll never be afraid again of not being able to provide and to do the things, because you'll always have choice, and you'll always have you'll have something to fall back on, and so that's a really important thing. So I'm proud to be part of this for you today, and I thank the Pointers and the McInerney's for having me here to be able to do this with you. So let's get started. I've got Joy out in the audience out there, and she's going to read my slides for me. So we've got quite a few to get through, but we're going to go through some quickly because I know money covered them last night. And did you enjoy your time with money last night? Yeah? Now, you knew money was wonderful. Did you know money was so handsome? I'll tell you something. Here's what I do when I write a book. You know, I interviewed money. I wrote the book. And then before I write the summary of the book, I go back and read the whole thing again. And so I was reading the whole, and I found this one term that money had mentioned, this financial freedom hybrid. And I wanted to make sure we covered this again just a little bit. This is where you have a job, something that will keep you going. And by the way, while you're building this business, you protect your primary source of income. You don't want to find yourself in a position where you don't have that security. So protect that. But remember, you're building this business because you want to have choices. You want to have the choices to maybe continue. Maybe you love what you're doing. Okay? Maybe that's an avocation. You love the people you're working with, that kind of stuff. Maybe you just don't want to depend on it. Whatever you want to do. Or maybe you want to leave it and go full-time in the business. Whatever it is, protect your primary source of income. Build it as a hybrid so that you're protected. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through some of the chapters in the book, just briefly. We talked about this last night, the one boss, many customers. Here's the thing. Your boss is under a lot of pressure. Your boss has got to keep costs down. Your boss has got other people working for him or her. Okay? And your boss is paying you what your boss thinks you're worth. I mean, so people say, "Oh, I want to make as much money as I'm worth." You're already making the money that you're worth. Because remember, money never goes anywhere unless it's commanded to go someplace. It'll only be commanded to go someplace if someone thinks they're going to get value for it. So whatever they're giving you now, that's what you're worth to them. And what you're worth in your own mind just doesn't matter. But this also applies to your personal business. It doesn't matter what you think you should be making in this personal business. It doesn't matter how far you think you should have grown in this business. It doesn't matter how much you think other people should be working as hard as you in this business. All that matters is what other people perceive. And the value that you're going to get is based upon, the money you're going to get is based upon the value to them. Now, look at your business. Your business has two things that you're going to get paid for, right? You're going to get paid for moving products, and you're going to get paid for developing business builders. Now, which of those two things has more value to your company that you represent? Which of those two things? Is it moving their products, or is it building business builders who can move their products? Building business builders. Why? You're moving products. There's only so many products you can sell. But if you build other business builders and they're moving products, do you see why the pay that you get is greater for building business builders than for moving products? Now, by the way, the only profits that can be generated are when products actually move. So you're not getting paid to, as headhunters. You're getting paid to help other people build business and move more products. Because you see, when your sponsoring company made the decision to move their products the way they do, they didn't have a sales force. They didn't go out. They decided, do we go out and hire a sales force, or do we pay people an incentive to build our sales force for us? So the value that you're going to get rewarded for is going to be greater for the thing that has greater value to them. And this basic fundamental thing, this is important to understand as you build your business. Okay, we did this difference between a boss and a customer. Customers don't care how much you make. Customers don't care how hard you work. Customers don't care how long you work. And customers don't care how many other customers you have. Big distinction between a boss and another customer. You want a business where you can have many, many customers, because you can't be caught in a monopoly. Monopolies sometimes go out of business. The boss's nephew decides that he needs your job better than you. So there's family pressure. You never know what it happens to be. So you want to go out and get as many great customers as you can. And we'll be talking about getting great customers. Your boss is a customer. You always remember that. Your boss is giving you value for the work you're doing. But your boss is paying you for time, not for results. All right, here's what equity is. Equity is something that you build. Equity is an investment that you make that produces money for you. You see, did we get to the slide of the guy shoveling and the guy? Yes, sir. Okay, let's take a look at that for a second. If you're a worker, you don't want to be a worker, you want to be a builder. If you're a worker, you're shoveling, and every time you shovel, that little wheel spins and some money comes out. But here's the thing. You stop shoveling, that wheel stops spinning. If you develop equity, the equity spins the wheel for you and produces money. You relax in a hammock or go fishing or whatever it is you want to do. Okay? You see, your equity works for you 24/7, 366, because we got to cover leap years. Okay? So you want to develop equity. Well, the question is, how do I develop equity? Now, most people think of equity as, I'm going to invest in stocks, and stocks make money. for me. That's great, but the way most people invest in stocks, Money mentioned this last night, I think, that they get a broker and the broker invests for you. You don't really know what's going on. You're not connected to it. You make money, don't make money, you don't know. You don't know what the fees are you're being charged. You don't know what your costs are. In a lot of cases, some people do. But what you want to do is you want to be intimately involved. You want to build some personal types of equity that you can have, or else you want to buy into them with a small investment in your business. And that's what's beautiful about your business. The minute you sign up for your business, you have equity. But let's talk about I think I have 6 kinds of equity up there, don't I, Joy? We start with self-equity. All right, 5 types of equity, okay. Self-equity. So self-equity, this is easy. This is cheap. Self-equity costs you almost nothing to build. You're building self-equity today. Because here's the thing, you're building knowledge. You're building confidence. When you walk out of this meeting, people are going to look at you differently because you're going to act and feel differently. That's personal equity. That's self-equity. You want to make that investment every day. You want to be reading books. You want to be listening to things. You see, most people get out of school these days, they stop learning. For the rest of their lives, they learn nothing. You want to invest in yourself by learning and by changing. I was telling George Pointner the other night, he and I had a fantastic time sitting up. A Thursday night, we sat up on that mezzanine level there, drank coffee, a couple hours, just had a great time. But that's when he gave me this tie. And this is George's tie that I have on. But anyway, we were talking, and we were talking about equity and the building equity and just changing yourself and learning to grow so that where you are now, you weren't here yesterday, you won't be in the same place tomorrow. But anyway, I was telling George that my family has a motto, and my daughters know it, my wife knows it, I know it. It's our motto. We wrote it down. Matter of fact, we have it engraved in some things. And here's our motto. The least I'll do is whatever it takes. The least I'll do is whatever it takes. You know why? I have a dream. See, I have a dream of the way I want to live, the way I want my family to live. And so the least I'll do to get that is whatever it takes. I don't care what it takes. If it means me changing because my customers are demanding a different me, and remember, your customers are the company, they're your business builders you work with, they're the end users. If my customers are demanding a different me, I'll do it. I'll change. Now listen, I won't give up my morals. I won't give up my core beliefs. I'm not talking about that because you know why? I look for customers who share that. I won't take some customers if they don't share my core beliefs. Because why would I want to be? I don't want to be associated with those people. But so luckily there's enough people that share my core beliefs. There's enough customers out there. But like if somebody paid me to come speak someplace to a group I don't agree with, unless I was up there to help change their minds, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say something I don't believe in, but the thing is, I'm going to change so that my message gets through. I'm going to change the way I express myself. I'm going to change the way I live and act. I'm going to change the way I think about other people. I'm going to change the way I listen to other people because I'm investing in self-equity. I'm growing myself, and I'm doing that by listening to other people. None of us can ever grow without asking questions or without listening. You see, questions are so important. I know this isn't in here, but I want to mention this because this is really cool. If you don't ask questions, if all you try to do is generate ideas, did you ever go to an idea generation system where it's okay, we're going to write down all the ideas as they come out. Everybody shout out ideas, There's no bad ideas. Well, you see, ideas that you come up with on your own are based only on your past experience. Let's think about that for a second. Ideas that you come up with on your own are based only on your own past experience. See, you can't imagine things that you don't know. So I remember one time when Jeannie and I took the girls over to Disney. We lived in Orlando. We went to Disney all the time. And we stayed in a Disney hotel. And because we lived on the other side of Orlando at the time. And we were staying there, and they had this thing come on and says, it talked about innovations, this exhibit they have down there. I don't even know if they still have it because they couldn't keep up with the way things were innovating. But they said, there's things in there you can't even imagine. So, of course, I kept asking Ginny all the day, what do you think's in there? She said, I don't know, I can't imagine. They just told me I can't imagine. And because, of course, being a husband, I had to ask it again and again and again. It got very wearing, not on me, but on her. I thought it was terrific. Anyway, so here's the thing. So you're trying to generate ideas. You can't generate any ideas past your personal experience. However, if you start asking questions, that's a whole different matter. Just start asking questions. And ask them in an inquisitive, trying to learn manner. Get away from the blaming type things like, well, whose fault was this? Oh, why has this gone so wrong? Here's a question. Next time something goes wrong, instead of saying, whose fault was this? How did this happen? Instead of asking a question like that, say, what can I learn from this? Now, there's a question. What can I learn from this? You see how that will change your life? So that's self-equity. Now, there's other kinds of equity up there. There's system equity. Gosh, you have a system. The minute you sign your name on that dotted line, and I don't know if your company has a dotted line, but if it doesn't, erase little pieces of it so it is a dotted line when you sign your name there. When you sign your name on that dotted line, guess what you immediately get? You immediately get an entire system. It's yours. Do you understand what the equity value of that is? It is so much greater than anything you would pay to be a part of this company. It's huge. It's in your pocket. You've got network equity, which is as you build your group. All right? Let's see, we've got self, system, network. What is it? Oh, mentor equity. See, that's the big thing. You know what mentor equity? It's a person who has enough self-equity to be able to help others. Think about that. See how that whole circle goes there? Can you understand the value of that, the power of that? If you have these things, you are generating money with them. If you're building other business builders and you've brought yourself up to the point where you have mentor equity, do you understand the power? Do you understand how they look at you? When you look at the Pointners and the McInernys and the Kleins, when you look at Greg and Lori, the people up here, these are people who have mentor equity, but they build it by building self-equity. They built themselves before they tried to help other people. And that's so important. Oh my gosh, that's huge equity. And the beautiful thing you have about your system and your network is, if you don't have your own mentor equity yet, you just take your prospects and your downline and you put them in touch with somebody who does have mentor equity. Isn't that powerful? See, you're not working alone anymore. Do you understand the leverage power of that? It's unbelievable. Oh, I don't want to live on fixed income. Well, you tried it for the last 40 years. So you can squeeze another 20 out. Money says, command me. See, here's the thing. Money only goes where money's commanded to go. Money established that with you last night, right? That's the whole basis of how money's made. See, money's existing already right now. There's people with money in their pockets right now. And you've got to get it out of their pockets into yours. That's the only way to do it. But you have to get them to command their money to go to you. That's it. Very simple. It's a whole economic system. It's the way it's been since the beginning of time. It's the way it's going to stay for a long time. It's just the way it is. Money has to be commanded to go to someplace. Money says, command me. Money says, learn to get people to command me to go to you. And once you have money, now you can command it to do what you want. So understand that nobody's going to give you, you're not going to get any money unless money is commanded to go to you. So we spent some time on this last night, so let's go a little bit further now. Did Money tell you about stirring the pain last night? I forgot to ask him. Yeah, he did. Boy, I'll tell you something. I've been thinking about this because I talked to a couple people this morning at breakfast, and they told me that Money had told you this. This concept is so important. You see, nobody takes action until they realize they have a problem. If you get a chance sometime, go online and look up this thing. It's called the Consumer Purchase Buying Decision, or the Consumer Purchase Decision Process. I think it's called the Consumer Purchase Decision Process. And it's got 5 steps to it. The first step is problem recognition. In other words, nobody takes action until they realize they have a problem. And what you have to make sure is that not only do they realize they have a problem, that the problem is so big that they have to take action. And now it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to move some products, that's not so hard to do. You got a great product, you're going to put some value on it. We'll talk more about value. But if you're trying to build business builders, man, you need to stir that pain. And one of the things that I know that you guys have been taught this. Well, I heard them talking about the parade of homes out there. Do you understand that that's pain stirring? Okay? That is massive pain stirring activity, you know? You might as well just fill the sink with water and hold people's head in it and bring them up and let them gasp. And you get it yet? No. Put it back in there, you know? You got it now? Yeah, I got it. This is massive pain stirring. You see, pain stirring doesn't have to be positive. It doesn't have to be negative, I mean. It doesn't have to be you being mean. It has to be putting people in front of their dreams. You see, let me give you this definition. This is the definition of what a problem recognition is. You ready for this? This is important. When a desired state is different than the actual state. When a desired state is different than the actual state. And here's the thing. Here's when pain is stirred, when the desired state is farther from the actual state. So what you got to show people is you got to show them that gap between what they're feeling right now and what they could be feeling. That's the gap. That's the pain point. You got to get them in there. You got to let them wallow in it. Don't drag them out of it up on the dry land. If they try to struggle out, you push them right back in there. Stand on their backs if you want. Whatever. You know, you want them to spend time with the pain. Why? And particularly if you're building business builders. You know, if you're building business builders, you want them to spend time with their pain. Because you want them to feel so bad that they'll never want to go back there again. You see, the only reason people take action is they have problem recognition. And I know this sounds kind of combative. I know it sounds kind of aggressive, that sort of thing. And you can't do it in that kind of way. You do it by asking questions. You do it by asking innocent questions of people. But you let them slip themselves into that pain point and stay there. Don't throw them a lifeline right away. Don't say, oh, well, don't worry. You feeling bad? Oh, I'm really feeling bad. You know, I just lost my home. This, that. Oh, no problem. I got a solution for you. That's not it. You lost your home? Oh, my gosh. You know, or I'm about to lose my home. Whatever. You know, okay, you're about to lose your home. Gosh, how close are you? Did you know, by the way, that the average person who lost a home in this last downturn, the difference between them being able to pay their mortgage and not being able to pay their mortgage was $500 a month. Isn't that amazing? That's nothing. That's nothing. You know? It's $500 a month, you know, and yet for them, $500 was a mountain. You know? So they're looking at this pain and they don't see any solution. However, if you can start trickling a little solution to them, if you can start letting them climb a rope, don't try to just drag them out of there and throw them up on the mountain. That's not going to work. Let them climb that. Let them get a little taste of it. You know? Hey, I'm only $400 a month shy now. I'm only $200. See, that's the thing. Because sometimes people won't believe you that you can solve the pain like that. Because for them, you see, the thing is, for you, it might not seem like much. You might be thinking, $500 a month, how could you have let that come between you and your family's home? How could you have not taken action? But you know what, for them, there was something else holding them back. There was something else holding them back. So in this building your business builders, understand your customers. Get personal with them. Because guess what? Your company is going to reward you so well for every successful business builder you build that you can afford to spend time with them. Now, don't waste your time with them. Don't wait. If they don't respond or anything like that, you know, wish them luck and say, hey, listen, I'll be here. Because you never know when they're going to cycle back around to you. You don't know when that pain is going to be so bad that they're going to actually take action. So put your investment time into the things that are going to bring you money. What does your company pay you more for? Moving products or finding other people to move products? They give you money for developing other people to move products, right? Because you're leveraging, you're expanding. So put your time where your rewards are going to be. Risk and reward. I want to talk to you about just real quickly. I won't go into this too much, but risk and reward. You want to balance risk and reward. Where there's risk, there's bound to be rewards. But people hate risk. We call this there's the two faces of risk. Okay, one is remember Money told you last night to remind me to tell you about why you're putting your families and your friends at risk when you start growing a business. Yeah, remember that? Well, Money called me up this morning and said, Bill, don't forget to do this. You know, I told him you would do it. Okay? Here's the thing. Here's what's happening. You see, you see this, right? I mean, you're here because you see this. You're part of this. This is just such a big point. I want to make sure we're all here. Let me just make sure we're all awake. My wife bought me this on our honeymoon. Now, every time I hear that noise, I have the urge to go run and do the dishes. I'm not sure why. Excuse me. But anyway, your friends and family didn't see this. You know, they didn't have the pain point, apparently, that was large enough for them to do this. So guess what? You saw it, they don't have the pain point, and now, see, there's two groups in the world. There's us, and there's them. All right? Now, you belong to a group called us, right? It's your family, your friends, that kind of stuff, the people you work with. That's us. And us are not like them. Right? Every us is different than every them. Yeah. Here's the thing. You may not any longer be one of us. Yeah. Of your us. You're part of us. But not your family and friends us. You see, the thing is, and thanks for saying that because I want to make sure I got that clear. You see, here's the thing. They're sitting there, and what zone are they in? Twilight. They're in their comfort zone, right? See, they've surrounded them with people like them, like us. That's why we call ourselves us. We're all alike. None of us have money. We're all working too hard. None of us have a dream. None of us have a possibility of living better. None of us are ever going to get out of the thumb of our boss. None of us are ever going to have children that are going to be able to make choices. None of us are going to be able to do the things we really want to do. We're us. Well, now all of a sudden, you are on fire. And you are shaking their entire belief system. Folks, you have put them at risk. And see, you're at risk because you're putting yourself out. You're calling people up on the phone and saying, hey, listen, I want to tell you about something. They're hanging up the phone, or they're like, one of those big, or maybe they're blowing a conch shell like that into the phone when you call. But you see, you don't mind taking the risk because you're getting rewards. Guess what? You've put them at risk with no reward. So I tell you this just so you'll understand sometimes why people react the way they do. It's just going to be the way it is. Because they no longer feel that they can depend upon you to keep things exactly the same. They can no longer come to you and say, geez, I wish I had some more money because my car isn't running well. You see what I'm saying? They can't come to you and say that anymore because you're going to say to them, well, why don't you change that? They don't want to hear that. Because they didn't tell you that because they wanted to change it. They told you that because they wanted to complain. And they wanted you to say, gee, that's too bad. None of us can do that. Only them. Only them can do it. You see the risk you're putting people at? I just want you to understand that. See, risk and reward, that's okay. Risk without reward, that's tough for people. So you can't do much about that except be a good example and love them and try to understand them and listen to them. But listen, don't let them steal your dream just because they haven't put any reward with their risk that you created for them. Okay? So I just want you to understand that. Now for you're going to take risk and reward. Now, here's the thing. Your customers, including your IBOs, including the business you represent, and your end users, they hate risk. Customers will pay you to reduce their risk. So what you want to do is you want to find out where people's risk is. And every time you reduce risk, people give you money. Okay? So you have an IBO that's come into your organization. They got risk because they got people who are saying they're crazy, this and that. They don't know how to build a business. They're scared to death of getting on the phone with somebody or whatever. Well, you've got the ways to reduce that risk. You step in. You hook them up with somebody who's got mentor equity. You relieve them of their risk, and guess what? They'll turn around and they'll start building. Not all of them, but a lot of them will. Okay? Because what they don't want is risk. All they're looking for is rewards. People want to reduce as much risk as they can and maximize their rewards all the time. That's why when you're building your business, you build your business, you're going to have customers, that's right. But you're building your business on business builders because that reduces your risk, maximizes your rewards from your parent company. Oh, chapter 6, 7 secret steps. Let's go through these, okay? Here's the 7 secret steps that money suggests that you follow if you want to have more money, you want to build a better life for yourself and your family. Step number 1 is find a problem. Look for big problems. Bigger the problem, bigger the solution, bigger the reward. People with big problems have more pain. Easier to get people with big problems to do something than people with little problems. Oh, yeah, find out which people has those problems. And listen, you're looking for people. You know, people are the only ones that spend money. I was in a store the other day and there was a dog buying dog food. You know? Guess what? Didn't happen. Dogs don't buy dog food. Dogs drink out of the toilet. What are they going to care about dog food for? You know, it's people buy dog food. People spend money. Identify the solutions. See, here's the thing. Does it say don't reinvent the wheel? Yes. Yeah. Here's the thing. You can identify solutions to problems. There's almost a solution for every problem out there already. You just got to identify what it is, and then you got to put your own unique value onto it. Okay? Add value to the solution. Look, you see, all this is saying is add value to the solution. Add value to the solution. See, there's for every problem out there, there's probably 30 different solutions. You know, are there other companies out there that are helping to solve people's money problems or trying to do it? Yeah. Okay. So how do you compete with that? Well, you've got to add your personal stamp to the solution. Okay? You got to add your personal stamp because that adds personal value. You've got to extend your hand out to the people you're building a business with. You've got to let them trust you. Do you understand the value of trust? How much risk that reduces for people? You see, you're not adding value to anything else but the solution. You're adding value to the solution. You got to intercept people when they have a problem. You got to help them understand they have problem recognition. Let them wallow in the pain. Intercept them means you got to get out there and meet them. You can't, let me send 100 emails today, you know? You can't do that. How do you understand people? Unless you're there talking to people, unless you're listening to their voice, in my case, or looking at them face to face in the eyes and seeing how their eyes change as they talk about something, where you understand where their pain is. Because you're out there to relieve pain. Yeah. Trade your solution for money. Trade your solution to the pain for money. You see, that's the important. You actually have to take the money. At some point, you got to say, okay, I'll have that money now. And people have trouble with that. But guess what? If you've gone this far, you're not going to have to ask them for the money, are you? They're going to insist you have it. You see, if you have the right kind of customers, they're going to insist on giving you money. It'll be a joy to them. Why? You reduce their risk. You solve their problems. You've added your personal value to the solution. Man, it's powerful stuff. It's a way to live. Relentlessly repeat steps 1 through 6 every day of your life. And you teach other people to do the same thing. Folks, you see, this. I just want to take a second. You know, put your pens and papers down for a second, please, okay? Okay, just take a second. All right, now, see if you can cross your eyes. No, we won't do that. Right? I just want to see how far we can go. Just relax for a second. Do you understand the door you've just stepped through? You see, you are now in a different place. You are a business person with an understanding of how customers work. There's power in this. Hold the hands of the people next to you, please, just for a second. We're not going to sing Kumbaya or something like that, don't we? Just hold that. Do you feel the power that's in this room? Can you feel the door you've stepped through? Okay. All right, now let go and clap a little bit. Huh? That's good. Yeah. What's today? Hey, folks. Oh, I was just going to ask what, because I have my July 7th, 1993, 2:30 in the afternoon. Guess what day this is? It's the 18th of April. What happened on the 18th of April? 18th of April, 75. Hardly a man is now alive. Remembers that fateful day in the year, the midnight ride of Paul Revere. You see, what a coincidence. There was somebody riding through the countryside, waking people up. Some number of years ago from today. I can't add it up. Anyway, so 25, 240 years ago? Yeah, 240 years ago today. Okay, there was Paul Revere and some guy named Dr. somebody other, hardly remembers, riding through the countryside, warning people. Hey folks, wake up. Wake up. Financial calamity's coming. Head it off. Be ready. All right, now Money talked about this last night, add value to the solutions. Your unique value, let's go to the, again, this is permission to profit. Let's go to the very last slide in this sequence there, which talks about the value you can add to different groups, right? Remember, you're adding value three ways here. You're adding value to end users who are going to buy your products, okay? You're adding value to your business builders that you work with, and you're adding value to the company that's sponsoring, that you're representing, okay? These are three places where you can add value. And what you want to do is you want to think, okay, what would I want? What would I want? How would this help me? And I listened, like I said, I was listening to Chip talk about the vitamins and talk about how they were organically grown. You know what? That adds value to people. How would people know that unless you told them, unless you shared that with people? And how would you know that's not important to them unless you're asking them questions about what's important to them, getting a conversation going, understanding things, understanding their pain. So you see this adding value. It's the only thing you have the right to take profit on is the value you add. And you have to add value to the solution. Yeah, Money and I were talking about TV shows that were most like this situation. We talked about Dancing with the Network Stars. Didn't seem like that worked fit too well. We talked about Naked and Afraid, which is actually a TV show which neither Money or I have seen, and we probably will not be watching. But I don't even know what it is, but I don't even want to imagine. And we thought about Survivor. You see, you know what that movie, that TV show Survivor is? They send people to an island or something like that, and they're part of a tribe. And some people, you get there, and they're just so clearly unqualified to survive. I mean, they know nothing. I remember one year there was some guy who built a spear and killed a pig with it. Now, didn't seem so hard to me to do because the last pig I saw was penned up in a box. Just jab it with that spear. I think it would be pretty easy, but I guess he apparently caught a wild one. I just thought, you go to somebody's farm. Seems a little bit easier to me. I could probably survive that way. Well, actually, I could. Once I killed the pig, what would I do with it? But so some people are better equipped. Some people know how to survive. Guess what? We're on the island, folks. We're on the island together. And we're looking around, and guess what? It's just the way life is. Some people are not going to survive the financial exigencies that are occurring all the time. Some people aren't equipped to do it. Now, the thing is, none of us have ever been trained to do it. There's no school out there that I know of that trains you how to really survive as an individual. So you've got to develop the skills. Well, so where do you get the skills? Well, you get them here. You get them from your system. You get them from the things that the recommended readings. You get them from listening to people who have some thoughts and then questioning those thoughts and see if they can be a part of your thing. See, in other words, you don't want to get voted off this island. You want to survive. And so you got to learn how to survive. So think of yourself as being on that show. You got to learn, you got to adapt, you got to change. When the electricity is turned off on that island, it's hard to work your grill. So I've had this fish on that grill for 2 hours now. Nothing's happened. It's because it's an electric grill. You've got to learn how to adapt and change. Folks, there's some crazy things going on. It used to be you could get a job work for 40, 50 years, get a retirement, a pension, that's all gone. But guess what? The world hasn't told us that yet. Politicians, and people think I get down on politicians. I know that money was a little bit harder than last night. And there might be some politicians in here. I have no problem with that. People want to do good things. But listen, don't get sidetracked and don't believe that somebody's going to take care of you. How has that worked so far? The fact that someone says, oh, well, don't vote for them, and you talk about them and us, don't vote for them, vote for us. Why? Because you shouldn't vote for them. Does us have a plan? No, we haven't got a plan, but we're not them. Listen carefully to what they're saying. And if you have a cause you care about, I'm saying, great, fine, but don't think that they're ever going to save you. They're not looking for solutions for you. They're looking for votes from you. They're out there selling. And they're doing a pretty good job. You know why? They're stirring your pain, aren't they? They're stirring your pain. Oh, we need a country where more jobs are generated. I think there's plenty. I think there's plenty of jobs. How about generating some independent-minded people who can build us back to strength? Don't give me a job. Give me a pathway to my dreams. That's all I'm asking for. And so you gotta be strong. You gotta say, listen, I'm not gonna get sucked into this craziness to the detriment of my ability to feed myself and my family and achieve our dreams, and to grow a stronger family units where people begin to get back to some values that are actually strengthening values instead of weakening values. Instead of asking for us to be saved by people, how about saying to ourselves, listen, let's find like-minded people and let's save ourselves, and then we'll reach out to other people. And if we do that by example, guess what? That changes everything. Don't change the world by voting. Change the world by doing and being an example. I mean, vote too. Yeah, there's two kinds of customers you can have: great customers and ungreat customers. Do I need to tell you, look for the great ones, and stay away from the ungreat ones? There's people that will just suck the life out of you, and all they want is somebody to complain with and this and that and listen to them and go on and on. Just smile at them, and then, I used to carry, I don't do it anymore, I used to carry with me, I'll pretend my phone is a TV remote. Take a TV remote control with you everywhere you go. I mean, it really is great. And even if you don't actually have a physical one, have it in your mind. When somebody's going on, just hit the mute button, Just say, enough of that, I'm turning. Oh, look, I changed channels, How about that? By the way, and you can do this with your phone too. It's a great thing. If you want to really have fun with people, you go to a place that's got those automatically opening doors, and when you walk up to it, take your phone out and go like that. And then when they open up, walk in. Watch the people behind you. It's just great, Or next time you're at the ATM machine and there's a line, punch your numbers in, then take your phone out and step back and go like that as the money comes out, Put your phone away, take your money, walk away. Say, okay, good luck. But in your mind, start changing channels. Start muting people. Do anything just to stop having them suck the life out of you. Hey, there's a thing called black holes in space where the gravitational pull is so strong it can suck the light out of a star. Isn't that amazing? You think you're a star, you get around too many black holes, it'll suck the light right out of you, okay? Be around positive people. Look for great customers who are so happy that you're there. Oh yeah, find customers with a recurring problem. See, that's what your business is, right? I mean, do you sell one-time? What did Tim Klein talk about last night? He talked about selling refrigerators, right? You get one sale every 15 years. I mean, you can always hope that something bad happens. That maybe you sold a bad refrigerator the first time. That lasts just the day after the warranty. And then you get a second sale. But listen, with your sale, sell renewable products. Sell things that get used up, consumables. Okay? People will, that problem keeps coming back. Here's a real problem. See, the problem was, let's say with vitamins, problem was they didn't have enough energy in their lives, or their kids weren't getting enough of their attention. They couldn't function at work, all that kind of stuff. So that's the problems they have. They start taking vitamins that you've supplied them. They're feeling much better. Then their vitamins run out. Now they really got a problem. Because it was one thing not to have vitamins when you're feeling bad. It's another thing to run out of vitamins when you're feeling good, and it was the vitamins that did it. So that's a recurring problem. And you've got tools for that. Don't you have automatic reorder and that kind of stuff for people? Dittos? Price. Listen, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's such a deep subject. But, people get all wrapped up in price. And they think, oh, this person they'll never want to spend this much money. They're not. Price, here's the definition of price. Price is everything you give up to get what you want. Okay? You're working with business builders. Like, oh, I don't want to spend that much money on going to a function or something like that. So yeah, they're just looking and saying going to a function. Sure, who wants to spend that money? Remember, price is everything you give up to get what you want. All right, so if you want to get something big enough, you not only do you have to pay for the function, you got to go to the function. You got to listen to the function. That's the price you're paying. You go to these giant discount warehouse stores. You know what price you know what you're paying? You know what you're giving up? You're giving up pride. Yeah. Yeah, you've been to a giant discount warehouse store? Oh, they're crazy. I mean, I went to them because I was writing a book about it. When my wife was trying to get me to go inside, it was like trying to get a cat into a box. I got my hands on the door jam. I'm going, "Rah!" She's pushing on me, trying to get me in there, She said, well, we're going to save money on some food. And she's doing this just to get me because she knows we're not. Because you know where the food is? Food's in the back. What do you have to walk past to get to the food? Everything in the world, right? Lawn chairs, I don't even have a lawn. But look at the price. Look at the price, See, price is everything you give up to get what you want. So people think, oh, I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna buy one giant stick of butter. Think how cheap this is per pound. Yeah, but it's a 15-pound stick of butter. You're doing greasy bench presses with this thing, Jeez. Price is everything you give up to get what you want. Remember that, because when people balk at a price, it's because you haven't shown them the value. When people balk at a price, for anyone, whether it's your IBOs or that you're developing or customers, if they balk at a price, it's because you haven't established the value in their mind. And for some of them, you're not going to be able to. Move on. Move on. If they're not willing to pay the price, if they don't see the value in the price that they're paying for something, if they don't realize what else they're giving up, they're not your customers. And you got to let go. Not everybody's going to be your customer. What costs was it $1.25 on Monday, $2.50 on Tuesday, and $4 on Wednesday? It's a 2-ounce bag of popcorn. Monday, you bought it at a grocery store. Tuesday, you bought it at a 7-Eleven or a Wawa. Wednesday, you bought it at a movie theater. Okay? Same 2-ounce bag of popcorn. Guess what? People added value to it. What value was added at the Wawa? Convenience. You can get it, and with the Wawa, you can buy 1 2-ounce bag. And you're in, you're out. It's late at night, about to watch a movie, all of a sudden you got problem recognition, no popcorn. You zip out, you get the popcorn, you run back, you throw it in the microwave, another problem recognition, no microwave, but still, you cook it, right? You're at the movie theater, the show is starting, and you had to walk past. By the way, how do you know that they have popcorn for sale at the movie theater? You can smell it. Folks, you got to get people to smell whatever you're selling, okay? You got to plant that in their mind to make them so hungry for it. Can you smell popcorn and not get hungry? No. Well, if you don't eat popcorn, you can't. But if you're on a low-carb diet or whatever. But still, actually, if you're on a low-carb diet, you're even hungrier for popcorn, So the thing is that we can change value. Next slide's about drill bits. You probably haven't heard this before. Let's suppose that half-inch drill bit. Let's suppose that that 2 million people last year bought a half-inch drill bit. Do you know how many of them wanted a half-inch drill bit? None. They all wanted a half-inch hole. That's right. Okay? That's right. And listen, you know what your business is, folks? You know what you are for your business? You see, you talk about value, you talk about equity. When you invest in your business, when you paid to be part of this business, you know what you bought? You bought the drill bit. You know what you're doing? You're going to stick that drill bit in to the power tool that is this business. That's when you get leverage, baby. You're drilling stuff now because you got this. All you got is this. All you're bringing to the table is this little drill bit. You've got this whole equity structure built up, which is this powerful tool. Just plug it in. Just plug it in and build. Yeah, don't think of price as a cost. It's a revenue. You're selling stuff. You know? You're collecting. Remember, you're getting people to take money out of their pocket and have it jump into your pocket. See, price is no longer a cost. See, well, how much does that cost? No, it's what's the value of this? It was this, but we reduced it. All right, we've talked about this. I just want to cover real quick. We're almost out of time here, but because I want to get to the last 2 slides here. Being a good example, folks, this is the best thing. This is step number 1, because you have to build self-equity first. Do you know that being a good example is the most highly leveraged equity you have? Because it's so easy and it doesn't cost a thing. You smile, costs you nothing. You buy and use your own products, costs you nothing. You treat people with respect and dignity, okay, that costs you a little bit, but it doesn't cost you that much, particularly if there's somebody really annoys you, but that's okay. It doesn't cost you that much. You're going to put yourself out there a little bit in front of people and say, I'm making a change in my life. I'd like you to come with me, but I'm going anyway. That's a good example. It's a good example. It costs you something, but it doesn't cost you that much. It's the most highly leveraged thing you have because no one will do what you're not doing. No one will do what you're not doing. Be a good example. You'll never get rich if you have a big butt. I've been waiting all morning to get to here. I said to Money last night, don't do that one. I want to do that one. Folks, you'll never get rich if you have a big butt. Okay? That's the thing. Now, you notice how butt is spelled there? It's spelled B-U-T. I'd like to be rich, but I don't have the time. I'd like to be rich, but people like me never succeed. Okay? I'd like to be, whatever your butt is, you got to trim it down, folks. Okay? You'll never get rich if you have a big butt. By the way, you'll enjoy that when you read that chapter in the book there. It's Observation by Money. You'll never get rich if you have a big butt. And if you're around big butt people, you're going to fatten up, baby, because you're not, you want to be around lean, mean people with tiny butts. Everybody understands I'm talking about excuses, right? And folks, if you'd like, I'm going to be catching a plane pretty shortly, but I'm going to be over in the corner there during your break. And I just want to tell you that I got to end now because of you've said what you're going to say. It's just time to go. But one time I didn't do that, and I may have told you some of this in the past. But it was a night that changed my life. It wasn't July 7th, 1993. It was another night when I was speaking at a dinner, and I kept on going. I wouldn't stop, and it wasn't a very good talk. And then during dinner, there'd been an old man sitting next to me, blue blazer, white shirt, red tie, little fringe of hair around there. Nice person. Asked me about my family. He's sitting there. I'm up there at the lectern. I'm talking and talking. I wouldn't stop. There's a guy in the back of the room. He's had enough. He grabs his bottle of wine, dumps out the contents, grabs it round by the neck and starts running up through the chairs to get to me. And just before he swung it, I noticed him. I don't know how I saw him. And I leaned back and he swung through with a vicious swing and he smashed this white-haired gentleman on the top of his head. But the guy's head pitched onto the table with a terrible thunk. And he raised his head inch by inch by inch. And there was a little trickle of blood coming down over his ear. And he said in a hoarse and quavering voice, "For God's sakes, hit me again. I can still hear him talking." So, when it's time to go, folks, it's time to go. God bless each and every one of you. Have a great time on the path to money.